can already tell you that this video that we're going to do today will be one of the most important videos of 2021 for fellow believers in God. And if you're into New Age, on its face, what we're going to cover today makes Mr. T a Janus Two-Face confirmed, because he posed as a Christian but is really into New Age, as I will thoroughly demonstrate today. So if you're a New Ager and you think that what I'm about to show you is great on Mr. T's part, you first have to admit that he misled, misrepresented himself, and lied to every single Christian voter that followed him. Now, this is the guy, I want to be very clear here, that Mr. T picked to be the face of warp speed. And today, we are going to expose his aspirations to incorporate Eastern medicine and New Age into the new technology called bioelectronics. Now, many of you have not heard of bioelectronics before. We're going to cover that today. Now, what bioelectronics does is it taps into the body's electrical impulses to control health. We will expose how he's probably the one who had this Reiki chakra logo incorporated and embedded into the warp speed logo. As you can see here, he is the front man, the advisor for warp speed. And after what I show you today about what he said about Eastern medicine and incorporating it into this new technology, you will understand that we were exactly right by calling this logo out. This is the warp speed logo on the front of every letterhead, inside every meeting that Trump ever met with to go over the warp speed program, his flagship initiative that he was so proud of. Of course, he saw the logo. This is a chakra symbol called the Antakarana, which sounds a lot like anti-crown. And we went over all the details of that. We're not going to go over all of that today. You got to watch the other video as to what this symbol means. And it's about opening chakras. Now, I had a lot of New Agers come onto the program and say, this is great. Well, if you think it's great, then you still have to admit that Mr. T lied to all the Christians. And do you really want to trust a guy like that? Absolutely not. Now, what are the implications of this with respects to VCs? Because this guy was the head of GlaxoSmithKline for a decade. He headed up their VC department. So when you couple these two belief systems, bioelectronic technology and VCs, this gives us a clue as to where they want to take all this. Now, why are we talking about this now? Casey, haven't you done enough decodes on Mr. T? Yes, but guess what? He's staying on as Biden's advisor for VCs as well, and whatever aspirations that Biden will have. Now, someone sent me Biden's coat of arms. I don't know if I have it pulled up here, but he absolutely has the fangs of the snake in his coat of arms. Let's see if I can find it here. Now, as I said, this will be probably one of the most important videos that we do of 2021, because what it's going to do is reveal to you what is really going on and how you've been deceived. This is Biden's coat of arms. And as I told you, these could be horns, yes. But horns, they could also be the fangs. Mr. T made the venom, and Biden will administer the bite. 2 shots. Now, that's a whole nother show about Biden's bloodlines. We'll get into that on another show. But let's get into this. Now, the question becomes, If you are Mr. T and hate Google and you hate censorship, or you claim to, why hire a puppet? Their puppet to begin to sneak in these technology for VCs. And not only the technology, but New Age mysticism. When you're supposed to be a God-fearing, saved Christian. It's because it's all a show. They pander. This is why I keep telling you guys. They don't care about you. They just only pretend to. Now let's get into this. I want you to listen to his own words about bioelectronics. All right, this is him right here. Now this is separate from VCs, but I believe they're going to try to merge these technologies.
So what are bioelectronics medicines? What they are nano devices.
Nano devices. What has everybody been talking about? Now the fact checkers, see, they threw us a carrot. They're like, oh, we'll get the VC out. And then when everyone says it's got a nano device in it, we'll debunk them. And then no one will ever believe there'll be nano devices in it. You see how this works? He said in his own words.
That you put on our neurons that can read the electrical impulses that go through the neurons.
So what is the spark of life? That comes from God, right? The electrical signals in your body is run by the Holy Spirit. The reason why you walk, talk, and breathe is the God life. And they want to attach to that like some kind of a snake or some kind of a vampire or some kind of a, what's that word? A parasite. This is creepy.
Analyze them, decide whether they are right or wrong.
Decide whether they are right or wrong. They want to map the entire vagus nerve pathway system. You're going to hear this in his own words. I got several videos with this guy. This is going to blow you away. This is Trump's front guy.
And if they're wrong, they can write the electrical language of our biology to erase whatever was wrong and put in.
So, what if they decide, oh, the electrical signal for your sexual organs, oh, that's a little bit wrong. We want to add a little bit of estrogen into the men and a little bit of testosterone into the women. And now we're going to rewrite the electrical signals going down to your genitals. You see how dangerous this is? We already know what these people want to do. We already know their track record. Are we going to really put this trust in them to correct disease?
What's right, so as to modify the function of a particular organ or a
They're going to modify the function of the organs.
particular biology.
So in a disease, when the organ is a bit out of whack, out of control, then the bioelectronic medicine can correct the electrical signals that go to the organ or from the organ.
So, now we're going to get into a little bit more specifics on this technology so you can understand how it dovetails into new VC technology that is on the horizon. They could be coming up. They could be all about this. Now, let's look into Mr. Monsef. And we're going to call him Money because, of course, can't talk about all this stuff anymore. This is Operation Warp Speed. Of course, here's the logo. If you're in denial that Trump had anything to do with this, now you're going to have confirmation because the very guy he hired is into this stuff. Here is Monsef Money. We're going to call him Money. Salawi. And he has a ton of money. Here's his wiki page. Now here's where we expose this guy. Because, let's see. He is an alphabet Google puppet. Let me see if they have it in his wiki article. I want to show this to you so that you can see. Let's see if we say Google. Okay, I think we got to go into his other profile here to expose this guy. Here it is. Now look at what he says here. A couple years ago, GlaxoSmithKline Salawi, who now runs the VC group for GlaxoSmithKline, had said this in an interview. in the China Post. Oh, I thought, oh, wait a minute. That Mr. T hated China, and it's the China virus, right? Why is this guy heading up his organization for warp speed? It says we realize that when we use this chemical structure or recombinant protein as a medicine, that we use it in fact are what we use in fact are the structures of these medicines to interact with the structure of a receptor or protein in the body, or our bodies uses structure to communicate with biology, but it also uses electrical impulses which go through our nerves. So we ask the question, can we use electrical impulses to modify the way that organs function? Now, let's go back up here. So, GlaxoSmithKline is teaming up with Google's life sciences venture called Verily, channeling its 4-year effort to create new nanotech-based bioelectronic therapeutics into a startup called Galvani Bioelectronics, with joint plans to invest $713 million into the venture over the next 7 years. GlaxoSmithKline's Moncef Slaoui has billed this effort as a revolutionary attempt to break out of the traditional mode of therapeutics development. So this is the wave of the future. This is tantamount to mapping the human genome. This is the same thing. It's just another technology. This is Galvani Bioelectric. This is their website. And as you can see, it's got the Ouroboros spinning in a circle. They want to map your neural pathways. And who is heading up Galvani? None other than Mr. Money himself. Board member and chairman in 2016. Is this starting to make sense now? This is when Mr. T was elected. All of this has been set in place by the deep state, which he's claimed to go after, but then hired the guy to make this happen. And it's bipartisan because Biden's doing the same thing. He's got the same guy hired on. When will we wake up? Now, this goes deeper because Mr. Money, where did he go? Here he is, was already invested in Moderna before he ever stepped foot in the Oval Office. So, look at this. To avoid conflict of interest, Mr. Money resigned from the board of the Massachusetts-based biotech firm Moderna, which had been developing a VC for CV. So he had already had stocks. Slaoui faced criticism from Senator Elizabeth Warren. Didn't she run with Bernie Sanders? I'm starting to like this woman because she also spoke out against Monsanto. Remember we did a show on that? How she was against big ag and then the seeds and Roundup and all that? Well, here she emerges again. And it says here that she criticized him for continuing to have Moderna stock options worth $10 million. On May 18th, 2020, Mr. Money resigned from the board of manufacturing from Lonza, which Moderna had partnered with to develop a CVVC. So this guy was knee deep in Moderna stock. On May 19th, after initially denying a conflict of interest, Mr. Money divested his Moderna stock, donated the value it had gained from May 14th onward to cancer research. That's just money laundering right there. That's what that is. Because you do that and then you write that off on your taxes. You see how that works? And it all comes back to you somehow. Look at this. He had also resigned as an advisor to Bri Biosciences, a firm with sizable Chinese investments. Oh, that China virus. He went on and on, dividing everybody. But yet, his front man was knee deep in this stuff. it makes absolutely no sense to me. When will people wake up? Then it says his decision to retain his GlaxoSmithKline stock, even after being announced as Operation Warp Speed's chief advisor, was cleared by the Department of Health and Human Services. Of course it was. Now, what is behind the Warp Speed logo? It masks the Health and Human Services logo. It's behind here. And it's the mask over the faces of the Health and Human Services logo. So, he gave the appearance that he was divesting all of his conflicts of interest, but in actuality, he still made millions and millions. And the very fact that he already had the stock in the company, the very company that would win the VC race, right? It completes a loop. It makes it appear as though they already knew who the winners were going to be. Again, dishonesty. So it just so happens that Moderna wins the contract. Now, there's other articles in here that prove that he was the head of GlaxoSmithKline's VC division for over a decade. I think it was like 15 years, or even longer maybe. And of course, you heard that he's into electronic implants. Now, the VCs that we have now do not have implants. They had one that almost made it to market called Inovio. And it used these bioelectronics to stimulate an immune reaction after the VC was administered. They stuck this thing on the site. It was like a little wand on the site, and to get the DNA to go into the cell. But then they scrapped the DNA technology and they went with RNA. Now, let's get back to this. When did Mr. T announce the first announcement of Warp Speed? It was on April 29th. Well, I looked at that date, and that date is the 119th day of the year, and of course we know what 119 is backwards. Emergency. Now, 2 weeks after his first announcement of Warp Speed, he hired Monsef, Money Man. And he was, as I said, already knee-deep in Moderna stock upon his hire to Warp Speed. And we just explained to you how all that shook out. How he tried to give the appearance of divesting, but the cat was already out of the bag. Now, aside from this clear conflict of interest and Moneyman's company winning the bid to dose millions of Americans, he also chairs on that bizarre company that I just mentioned called Galvani Bioelectronics. The Ouroboros. We can, we do, we drive. www. Wow. Vav, vav, vav. 666. Now, let's keep reading this article. We're going to be very thorough here with this, because there are still many people in denial about the true deep state, and that all of these people work for the deep state. Mr. Money has billed this effort as a revolutionary attempt to break out of the traditional mode of therapeutic development, rethinking the science, technology of drug R&D to create a completely new development field called electroceuticals, which will now be focused on inflammatory, metabolic, and endocrine disorders, including type 2 diabetes. And now Verily Life Sciences formerly Google Life Sciences, which operates under the new Alphabet banner, is making a big biotech bet. So this is all about Google. That it can live up to its mission to transform medicine by partnering with GlaxoSmithKline. So, this is an ambitious collaboration allowing GSK and Verily to combine forces and have a huge impact on an emerging field, said Verily Chief Technology Officer. Now, we're going to get into more of the New Age aspects of this later in the show. I have a video, an hour-long video, him talking himself with timestamps. We're going to break it down. And he's asked a direct question by the audience, how Eastern medicine will fit into all this. And he acknowledges it and says the day before he met with a guru. In case you're still on the fence. Can't even believe I have to do these kind of videos. They want to harness new life science tech in search of a multitude of new ways to improve human health and rev up a longer life without many afflictions that drag people down the longer they live. This is trying to preserve your life and losing it. This is what this is. So I'm gonna pin all of these links. I don't want to get too weighed down in some of these articles. Here is one article on electroceuticals. Look at this. Some of you with eyes to see and ears to hear are already hearing the word DARPA. And you're going to hear him say that in his own words, that they are interested in this. Super soldiers. But I got to lay the groundwork first and show you what this is all about. A jumpstart for electroceuticals. They were already talking about this in 2013. Imagine a day when electrical impulses are a mainstay of medical treatment. Your clinician will administer electroceuticals that target individual nerve fibers. Now make no mistake, this involves nanotechnology and implantable technology. This will be the very beginnings of implanted microchips. You're going to hear that in his own words too. These treatments will modulate the neural impulses controlling the body, repair lost function, and restore health. So, faster healing. This is DARPA. Electrical prescriptions. Electrics. You're going to hear that. You're going to hear him mention that. This is all about healing, faster healing, super soldier healing. You know how we see in the movies where someone gets shot and they heal very quickly? Well, this is the kind of stuff that DARPA's interested in, right off of their website. Unbelievable. Let's keep going with this. You guys are probably chomping at the bit. Let's get into this video, Casey. Okay, we're getting there. So, there's chatter of using bioelectronics to administer VCs, either in the form of implantables or enhancing the immune response when the shot is given. There's a study here. Here is new infection. And they talk about using bioelectricity to fight dangerous infections. This was dated 2017. And down here, they talk about VC strategies. All vertebrates from fish to people have two kinds of immunity with common features. The adaptive immune system relies on the memory of previous exposure to specific pathogen and is the basis for current VC strategies. The innate immune system is present from the time an egg is fertilized, provides a first line of defense against pathogens through surface barriers, antimicrobial amino acids called peptides. So they're talking about using this bioelectricity along with VCs. This company has the patent on using neural modulation as a VC adjuvant. In other words, just what we were talking about, stimulating the immune system. A method for enhancing immune response in vertebrate subject is described. The method includes providing at least one energy stimulus configured to modulate one or more nervous system components of the vertebrate subject and administering one or more immunogen to the vertebrate subject, wherein the at least one energy stimulus and the one or more immunogen are provided in combination and in a temporal sequence sufficient to enhance an immune response. So you know that I'm not making all this up. Now, we already talked about Inovio and them using this very technology to enhance the immune response. That was for a DNA VC in which it did go into the cell. But they scrapped that. I think we shed too much light on it. And then they defaulted to mRNA, which does not go into the cell. So we're told. Now, they've been working on what is called electroporation, and it aids in the transfer of DNA into the cells. They've been working on this since 2008. This is a 2008 study, United States Securities and Exchange Commission. And in this document, let's see, what's the title? Oh, this is the Inovio document. So this is the SEC filing. And lo and behold, they talk about this, the availability of funding to support continued research and studies in an effort to prove safety and efficacy of electroporation technology as a delivery mechanism or develop viable DNA VCs, the potential availability of alternative therapies or treatments for the conditions targeted. So there it is right there. Now, fortunately, this tech has not made it to market yet. But here we are with Biden and the very same front man leading out in his VC aspirations. But this guy being a leader in this field is very worrisome to me. And this brings us full circle back to the famed warp speed logo, the Antar Karana. Some people are calling it the Antichrist, the Reiki Buddhist Hindu symbol that opens the chakras. Trump picked this guy to open your chakras. And he almost certainly incorporated the logo on purpose. Because this symbol, the Antakarana, is all about the electrical phenomenon in your body. This is it. Can't make it up. The Antakarana is an electrical phenomenon. Is this sinking in yet? I really hope it is. I really hope it is. The Antakarana, this is what the symbol's called that I just showed you, is an electrical phenomenon in your body. Electronic current through neurons. They call it opening your nervous system. So you have to ask yourself, where are we headed with these implants? Where's all this headed? Now, I might not be around in the next 5 or 10 years when all this hits, and people will have long forgotten this video. But I know for a fact that this is where they're taking things. Let's read a little bit of this, and then we'll finally get into the video I wanted to show you. It says, in order to discuss the Antakarana as an electrical phenomenon, the first and most obvious question to address is, what is electricity? What is the attractive force between a positively charged object and a negatively charged one? Now, what you're going to hear him say is that they basically use these electrical signals to take the charge away. They'll either charge it positively or negatively. This dovetails right into the antikarana, right into it. It's exactly what it is. What is the attractive force between a proton and an electron in the heart of an atom? Science knows how electric charge works and behaves well enough, but seems at a loss for actually describing or understanding what is its essence. But then again, science isn't equipped to penetrate this core mystery because electricity is quite literally alive. It's a living entity, something that would probably come as a surprise, even a shock to your local electrician. In esoteric literature, the great electrical life is referred to as Fohat. And to paraphrase Helena Blavatsky, do you see how you can't be a Christian and allow this? He is personified electrical vital power, the transcendental binding unity of all cosmic energies, on the unseen as on the manifested planes. On the cosmic level, his influence is felt in the constructive power that carries out the plan in the mind of nature, in the formation of things, from the planetary system down to the glowworm in Simple Daisy on the earthly plane. So blah, blah, blah. This goes on and on and on. Now you know what the symbol antikarana means and what it is. It dovetails right into what we're about to see next now. As we close the show, and I may do a little question and answer. This is it right here.
No delusions about it.
And you're going to hear his own word and his own words here. He actually describes this. This is the moderator here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. You guys can see this. This is the moderator, and you're going to hear him in his own words say that modern medicine are poisons. This is Monsef right here. Let's go to 10 minutes, 23 seconds, and hear the moderator say that modern medicine are poisons.
It's a big idea that's going to change the world.
Let me slow this down. I have it on fast speed. Any research that I do, I usually have it on fast speed so I can get through more material and bring you guys more information.
Before going on to Monsef, I just want to say that to remind those of you who aren't scientists, most of the drugs that we have now are poisons. They work by blocking a receptor, by blocking a channel.
Look at this guy, the way he looks at him. Whoa, he goes, you let the cat out of the bag. They're poisons?
By stopping something that normally happens from happening. This is different. This is making it...
Now, this conference in Aspen is all about bioelectronics. This is what this is all about. And this is where Money Man lets the cat out of the bag. Now, at 14 minutes, he talks about implantable microchips and nanochips. This is him right here.
Complex peripheral nerves are stemming from the brain through various proceeds and go, for instance, through the vagus nerve that you have.
So this is all about the vagus nerve, and this is where this parasympathetic, the most electrical signals go through, and this is what they're really focused on in tapping in to that vagus nerve. This is where the center of this technology is. They want to map the vagus nerve in your body to find out exactly where it goes and how to interface with it like a parasite.
Have described, and then branch into organs more and more specifically. And our concept is to understand, read the electrical language that nerves, just as they come to the spleen or to the muscle of controlling our lungs or into the pancreas or into our GI tract, get to that nerve, read what they're telling our organ, and if we read that something is wrong, correct it, and do that through microchips or nanochips that
Microchips or nanochips. See where all this is headed?
we would implant on that nerve, have them very local, so they need to be very close to the organ, and very specific by definition because they're very local, but also because they only correct when they read something is wrong, they would be temporally specific.
Now, if you think this is all great, later in this broadcast, they talk about DARPA's interest in all of this. Let's go to 16 minutes, because here he says they all got together and shared all their tech, and that this will be a reality in 5 years. Now, this broadcast 5 years ago. So here we are. And now he's just magically heading up this federally sponsored VC development in America under warp speed.
In making this bioelectronic medicine. So we decided to actually foster this scientific field, become the integrator, create an open innovation approach. We created a prize. We put hundreds of scientists from all continents together in a meeting. Francis, you were there, and you were there too, Kevin. And
so it's just everybody got together, almost like, you know, how they got together with CERN, same thing.
And really tried to advance this field. We have opened this completely, so intellectual property, etc., is the property of the world and of the scientific field. And enormous progress has been made over the past year and a half since we had that meeting. I can tell you that today in Glasgow.
Now let's skip up to number 18, because here's where things go off the rails. 18 minutes. The guy starts coughing, almost like they're laughing about this. And listen to what they say, and I want you to watch Monsef's eyes as the guy starts coughing.
Inside our body moves all the time. So when you connect something metallic or hard to a nerve, and the nerve moves, you run the risk of potentially...
He's talking about the interface. How are they going to interface the nerves? They still haven't figured out technology to do that.
Harming that nerve. How are we going to make these connections last for decades and years? Again, fascinating. Technology is being advanced. Those are three of the critical challenges this technology is, but as I said, we're very optimistic that will work.
Great, thanks.
Well, it's great to be here in Aspen, and a privilege to be on the panel with Munson and Kevin, and to have John, who seems privileged to be on the panel.
Look at this.
With Munson and Kevin, and to have John, who seems to be afflicted by something, as our capable moderator.
It's hyperreactive airway syndrome. I think you all know it. The bugs are dead. It's just an allergic reaction to their carcasses. Okay. Hyperreactive airway syndrome. I think you all know it. The bugs are dead. It's just an allergic reaction to their carcass. Hyperreactive airway syndrome. I think you all know it. The bugs are dead. It's just an allergic reaction.
Kevin and in Aspen.
Now we're going to zoom in on Monsef right as the guy coughs. Look at this. I'm going to put it in slow. Actually, I can't.
And a privilege to be on the panel with Munson and Kevin, and to have John, who seems to be afflicted by something.
See, it's a joke.
And Kevin, and to have John, who seems to be afflicted by something, as our capable moderator.
It's hyperreactive airway syndrome. I think you all know it. The bugs are dead. It's just an allergic reaction to their carcasses.
Okay. With the appropriate bioelectronic medicine, you can probably control that.
See the subliminal there? With appropriate bioelectronic medicine, we could control that. This was a clue about what they knew they were going to do with CV-19. This was 5 years before it happened. Now,
by the end of this, people may want to just be zapping me. This time I will cover this.
Unbelievable. Now, at 20 minutes into this, Monsef starts talking about the vagus nerve. And actually, Monsef doesn't. This guy does. And he starts talking about how he feels like a magician when he Spock chokes his patients out of their tachycardia. This is crazy. Listen to this.
Lightheaded, and has dramatic moments you have as a doc working in the emergency room, which I used to do a lot of, is when somebody rolls in the emergency room door who is faint, lightheaded, and has a very rapid pulse. And it turns out they have something called paroxysmal atrial tachycardia, a rapid form of heartbeat that's not terribly dangerous. It's not like VTAC, but it is very uncomfortable if you're in the middle of it. And it is possible, if all goes well for you, that you have that person simply lie down on the gurney and reach in and press with just the right amount of pressure right here on the carotid artery. And within a minute, you can break that tachycardia in that person.
So like he Spock chokes his patients out of their tachycardia.
Person is back to a normal rhythm, and you feel like a magician. How does that work? back to a normal rhythm, and you feel like a magician.
Oh, kind of like Janus and Jambres in the Pharaoh's court. See how this works? These people are demigods. Now, at 22 minutes, they let the cat out of the bag because they talk about immunity. He lets the immunity word slip. Another clue that they're going to incorporate this into VC technology one day.
Comes to what we're talking about today, because it carries a lot of this parasympathetic kind of signal, the kind of thing that maybe is involved in the immune system, is involved in gastric contractility, is involved in blood pressure and so on. The vagus for wandering, by the way, because it wanders all over the place after it leaves the brainstem. It's got all these branches. Go to Wikipedia and look it up. All the diagrams look like they were drawn in 1920.
They were.
Because they were. Yeah. And we haven't gotten past that. We can sort of maybe say what the path of the various branches is, and it's pretty clear that they're not quite all the same in everybody, so we have a personalized medicine issue here as well, just got to say that. But what we really need, if we're going to try to understand how to intervene, is a much more sophisticated way to measure what's going on there. And that means getting the anatomy squared away, the neuroanatomy. And that is, in fact, going to require a lot of technology that we are starting to invent, but we have work to do. That vagus nerve is not a nerve. It's actually within it hundreds of thousands of individual nerves that are going to different places, some of them sending signals, some of them receiving signals. If you really wanted to understand the system, what you'd like to have is a technology, this is our dream, that you would wrap around that nerve that would actually sample everything that's going on there without interfering, that would both be able to read what's happening and also send messages to change what's happening. And do that for the individual, because there are going to be differences you might want to have to tune. That's going to take an incredible advance in nanotechnology to be able to do that. But there are engineers and neuroscientists that are champing at the bit to get there. So I give Kevin and Monsef a lot of credit for getting the idea of this bioelectronic medicines initiative together, and Monsef putting resources from a private company into this effort and then insisting that everything has to be open access. That doesn't happen all the time, and I think should be very much applauded. And we did, in fact, at that meeting a year and a half ago, conclude that it's time to really make a push here, and this is a place where NIH can make a contribution. We have something called the Common Fund, which is a part of our budget, which is intended to tackle projects that no single part of our institution could handle, but it might benefit across the board quite widely, and this seemed like a great example of that. So we have initiated a program called SPARK. It's not the greatest acronym, S-P-A. Yeah, let's stop with that right now. So, I got to say, our colleagues in DARPA are also engaged in this, the Department of Defense. They're very interested in the same people that brought you the internet, also engaged in this. For that right now. So, I got to say, our colleagues in DARPA are also engaged in this, the Department of Defense. They're very interested in the same people that brought you the internet and, you know, things like GPS have also glommed onto this. They have a better acronym. Theirs is called Electrics, E-L-E-C-T-R-X. Get it?
That's the one we just showed you about rapid healing using these implantables, and DARPA's already working on it.
Wish I'd thought of that one first. But what are we doing with Spark? Well, we have actually dedicated, over the next 7 years, $248 million. And the first notice of opportunity for applications went out. They were due in April. They're getting reviewed next month. And we will make awards in September of the first set of these, particularly focused on defining the microanatomy of the peripheral nervous system. So we have a full census of what's there, some idea of what it does, at a much more detailed nature than what we can read about from the 1920s, and we're still kind of stuck with that. So where will this go? I don't know what the timetable will be, but I do think everybody else on this panel is right. We're going to end up with interventions for obesity, for diabetes, for lung disease, certainly for the immune system.
Immune system, right there.
For diabetes, for lung disease, certainly for the immune system, for bladder problems, for pain, and for hypertension and cardiac issues, and probably some others that people here on this panel could mention.
Now, they mention in here, too, that this is tantamount to the next human genome mapping project, but instead they're mapping the vagus nerve pathways, and they're mapping how they can interface with the vagus nerve and where they can interface with the vagus nerve. Also, they're talking about mapping the frequencies and impulses. The frequencies and impulses. They will use implantable technology to do this. This is it, you guys. And this, in case you were late to joining the show here, this man is and was hired by Trump, Mr. T, to head up Warp Speed, and now is carried over into the Biden administration. And my guess is that this will become our reality.
It's figuring out where the crossing lights are, where the flashing lights are. Mm-hmm. How do you get off a highway? How do nerves communicate with each other? How do they handshake? What's the electrical way that they handshake? What are the other ways that they can handshake? I want to go much farther without sort of mentioning, it's not just that this is a pipe dream. There are some specific examples of people who have been helped. Maybe the person who had rheumatoid arthritis in Europe.
2011, and I flew to meet him over Thanksgiving. Or if rheumatoid arthritis within 2 weeks of implanting.
So they talk about some case studies, which sound like miracles. Basically, what they want to do is enter the holy place. They want to enter the temple, the abomination that will cause desolation of your soul, because the two cannot exist as in one. Your lamp is either full of light, as Christ said, or it is full of darkness. The eye is the lamp of the body. This is what Jesus said in his own words. You can't have both.
Of what we understand about the body in lots of other ways. About the brain, we have big initiative about the central nervous system, which is not our topic this morning, which is at least as bold, trying to figure out how those 86 billion neurons in here do what they do and what we could do to intervene when they're not performing in the way you want them to.
And it's a little amuse-bouche for precision medicine. When you came to CBS a couple of months ago, and we were talking about, you've got this human genome project, we know what people's genomes are, now you got to match it up to phenotype, so what's going on in their lives, and these gizmos and maybe this technology can help us have databases, I know that's a scary word, databases of health, which help us put it all together and figure out, what's going to happen to who, what should we do when. But of course, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the topic that I'm sure all of you are thinking right now, which is you're hearing about chips implanted in bodies. So I've got to ask you, Kevin, and then we'll flip it to the audience. Any possibility of people hacking into other people's neurological systems and causing mischief? Not that anybody has that type of mentality in our planet.
So
once they have access to your neural system, they can control you. This is the whole joke about super soldiers and DARPA.
Devices can be hacked, and that is one of the challenges that Monsef and I have talked about. And Francis, this is an opportunity to think about if we were to roll some of these out today. Going to the doctor will become a thing of the past. Your chip will talk to your watch will talk to the internet will talk to your doctor will make adjustments.
But Kevin,
that's happening.
You know what they can't do? Your watch can't do this.
So this is the story of the year. This is what we need to warn against. Of course, quantum and all of that dovetails into this. I'm interested to hear channels like Anthony Patch and what his take on how the quantum will dovetail into this, but this is where they want to take us. You have a watch and a chip. You don't have to go to the doctor, and they just modulate and regulate the frequencies in your body. They tap right into your vagus nerve, which is the neck nerve, right? Remember we talked about the fangs of the serpent in piercing you in the neck like a vampire? This will be it. Instead, the device they're going to wrap around your nerve is going to be the fangs of the vampire. And they will control you.
I'm not trying to put you out of work.
And its neck. That stand up, and even though intuition is a horrible word in this day of precision medicine, I am quite certain it will never be replaced by machines. But I love machines. I'm a computer nerd and all that, but I can't let that go by. Go ahead.
I think the question on the table, when you think of it in that way, is do we need a new internet? The internet, as designed by DARPA, is a completely open network. And I think the discussion the internet, as designed by DARPA, is a completely open network. Yeah. And I think the discussion that's happening, not just in the guise of medical devices that can be hacked, but in other technologies that people know a lot more about than I do, but should we be building a completely secure internet from the ground up?
What's going to happen when they rebuild the internet from the ground up? Well, of course, there'll be new rules. And there will be things you can't say. They'll have complete and total control under the guise of internet safety and security, right? The Bible says when they say peace and security, then the world will end. Well, maybe part of that is talking about a secure internet rebuilt from the ground up. And he mentions DARPA again. And this is where the truth emerges. At the end of this, when you hear the final question, the guy asks, Monsef himself stands up to answer the question as this guy asks about Eastern medicine. Let me find it.
Hello, down. Why it works. So now I'm trying to
new specialized medicine sequence or
where'd it go?
And of actually it's
these chips.
Oh, here it is. Listen to this guy.
Watches and chips. But going to the past into Eastern medicine, do you guys take lessons from acupuncturists and millennia of insights on nerves and all these crossings of where to focus, research on where to put these chips?
Now, what he just asked was Eastern medicine. And this fits in directly to what is going to happen. Listen.
So, yes. It's fascinating to see how potentially acupuncture has mapped points of action that may be relating to exactly the nerve signals we're impacting.
Now he addresses acupuncture specifically, okay? But he goes on, takes it a step further to talk about Eastern medicine in general.
And just to bring it to today's age, I will not cite who, but just yesterday I was spending time with a major meditation guru and with a major meditation guru and with a major meditation guru and
okay, meditation guru. So he's consulting with a meditation guru. This is 5 years before he came on with Warp Speed, and now you know where the anti-corona symbol in the Warp Speed logo probably came from. He probably incorporated that into the symbol. Okay, it's becoming very clear and apparent at this point. Let's listen to what else he has to say.
And who has a whole set of hypotheses of the impact of meditation and your breathing rhythm, etc., on the vagus nerve, and entering into metabolomics and RNA sequence.
And there he just said it right there, RNA sequence. That's rmRNA-VC, right? Unbelievable.
And entering into metabolomics and RNA sequence analysis, etc., to document in a more scientific way the impact of meditation on how it impacts your health. So I do think this is an area where very old medicine and ultra new specialized medicine may meet somewhere.
It could really get.
So there you go, in case you needed to hear it in his own words. If you're a Christian president and you have your Christian team around you, your consultants, and they're about to make a medicine that's going to basically the entire United States, millions and millions of people are going to take, shouldn't those people have been told about this at the least, instead of trying to sneak it past them?
Give it a jump start, all these thousands of years of observation, you'd be foolish to ignore it.
Absolutely.
NIH has a whole
You'd be foolish to ignore it, he says.
section, whole center
Yes, I'm into New Age. Who said that? Remember those words?
called the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health that has been doing these kinds of rigorous analyses of acupuncture, of other kinds of interventions, and particularly focused now on meditation and its benefits, which you can clearly show are there, but we don't understand.
Where's God in all this? Where's faith? Where is Jesus Christ? Nowhere to be seen. So, are people still going to try to defend this? I hope not. I hope we've finally woken up. It's kind of too late. The venom has already been created, but at least we can keep our eyes on this guy as he transitions over into the Biden administration. And if there starts to be chatter of this implantable technology, we'll be able to stop it. Hopefully people will come out of the right-left paradigm and we can get people on the left to understand what's going on too, as Biden tries to develop this with Monsef, the money man. So let's just let this chat catch up. And I know that was a long show, but again, I'll pin all of that for those that want to read even deeper into this guy. Get the word out. This video should hit 1 million people. People need to know about this. I don't think anyone's really dug into this Monsef guy. And now we have. So this exposes it all. And if you're out there thinking you're accomplishing something by creating more chaos and falling right into the honey trap that the NWO has set for you, then maybe this will finally snap you out of it. I tried to make it simple and straightforward and matter of fact and pull all the emotion out of it, because this is serious. This is where we're headed, and this is why Mr. T hired him. But if you're in the New Age and the strong delusion, you're going to think this is great. And if you think this is great, just understand that Trump is playing both sides. And if that sounds honest to you and you can latch onto that just because you're getting your way now, then you're being dishonest with your feelings, because you can't do that. You can't just lie to half the people and then play the other side. It doesn't work like that. You got to pick a side. And obviously he hasn't picked a side. He's trying to do both at the same time, or he's being completely dishonest and he's just straight up lying to you, to your face. And this was the goal from the very beginning. But he just needed the Christian support to do exactly what they're doing now. The honey trap. Draw out the patriots and take them all down, which is what's happening right now as we speak. And there are no pardons coming for any of those people. So, there you go. I just laid it all out. And I just hope that we reach, even if we reach just one person with this show today, it will have been worth the time and effort that it took to put this up. And if there wasn't so much at stake, it probably wouldn't matter. But we are about to roll out millions and millions and millions of doses that millions and millions and millions of people are going to take because they trust him and still trust the plan. You're not supposed to be trying to open your pineal gland. That's not the goal. The goal is to let the Holy Spirit in. You think God can't supernaturally access your lamp of your body? Of course he can. The calcium around it is just a metaphor for the pearl inside, the clean pearl inside the unclean person, the unclean temple. Our temple is made clean when we let the Holy Spirit into our hearts. I mean, if you want to say that's opening your pineal gland, I guess you could say that, but you're ignoring the very fact that Jesus is the source. Anytime anyone tries to remove Jesus from the equation, whether that be spiritual enlightenment, whether that be anything, anytime they try to remove him from the equation, red flags should start going off left and right. Nowhere in that presentation did you hear Jesus' name mentioned, or even God. It was all about trying to do it on their own through meditation and your frequencies. And we're going to attach this to your nerve system, and we're going to implant you, and we're going to control you. And DARPA wants to do it too. And I mean, how much more do we have to see to understand what's happening here? They're telling us in their own words. All right, we're going to end the show. And I appreciate everybody that came out. If you haven't already, understand that the information that you learned today all came from the Most High. He has all the power and the glory. And if this affected you today and helped you open your heart and understand the nature of the deception in this world, then pay that forward and do what he wants you to do. Open your heart and let him in. And wait and say, God, I'm going to start the journey today. I might not be perfect. Hey, I might smoke. I might drink. I might do all these things that, and I might do those for the rest of my life, but I love you and I'm willing to open my heart and go on the journey with you. That's what he wants. It starts there, and let him do the rest, and have faith that he is going to basically bring you into your destiny and the person in the fullness of your spirit with him. That's how this works. I'm not a perfect human being, you guys. I make a lot of mistakes. But the one thing I do is love God, and I dedicate my entire life to doing this. To exposing evil and end suffering in people's lives because they're perishing from lack of knowledge. So God can work through you and help you realize your destiny. You just have to believe him and open your heart. Take care, everybody.